A major announcement: new shirts on sale. SB 357. They come in black and white, and in different shapes and sizes. And we have the shirts with the logo up there, as you can see with the silhouette and the black shirt. And you can get them at the Instagram pages right here. Follow the Instagram page, and don't forget like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope y'all enjoy the video. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Kimberlin Sides doing another Wisdom Wednesday. And on today's Wisdom Wednesday, what I just want to talk about is, first of all, shout out to my boy Hakeem for sending me this video. But on today's Wisdom Wednesday, what I just want to talk about is a clip that or podcast that I was just briefly looking at, the High Hater podcast by Mano, Jim Jones, Fabulous, and Dave East. And I don't want to talk about the whole podcast because I didn't watch the whole thing, but I do want to talk about a particular thing that they was talking about on the High Hater podcast. Like I said, as we all know, when I talk about on Wednesdays, I'm pretty much just going over either a video that I seen or something that I read in the book, or there's something I'm seeing is going on in the current world on today's. And on this part of the video, they were talking about like, yo, how do you know when you mature? And I was just like looking at that, and it just started to spark my brain, and it was just pretty much making me think about like, yo, like a few ways how like you can exemplify like your maturity in like ways how you develop maturity. And the first way that I notice is just like you acknowledge the past. You acknowledge like some things that probably went on in your childhood, or like reasons why you act a certain way that you feel that was like immature. Like for instance, like maybe you was neglected as a child, so you act out a lot. Or maybe maybe you felt abandoned, and so like you hung out with certain groups, like just being honest with you, like gangs and stuff like that, and you needed that sense of love. So like that was the people that at that time period that like you hung out with, just to allow you just to just to feel love and not feel abandoned and stuff like that. And also just putting in systems in place, y'all. Like I just feel like when we start to become more mature, like we start to have like systems such as like probably be on the football team, or a group of young men, or a group of people that you could talk to, and they could just help you out with like certain behaviors, and just tell you like where you was wrong at and how you could develop and make better decisions. Like I know like with me, like it's coaching, it's working at the shipyard, is going when I went to college, is being around the right people, and then it's also just seeing my therapist. Like those people allow me to exemplify me to be more mature, because I was able to see like where I was wrong at, and like how I could change. And then also just seeing like some of the behaviors that I exemplified as a child that was, or younger, that was immature, that where it's just like, hey, you was wrong here, but you wasn't also wrong here. And that's also another thing, there's knowing where you wasn't wrong at. Just because like some of the things that you did that was immature wasn't always immature, it was just that you was just out of place. And so like those are just a few things. But then also like the future you, or like when I say the future you, I'm just saying like when you have systems in place, there's knowing like, hey, there's a possibility that you're going to go back to these behaviors, but you're going to minimize what you've been doing. And what I'm pretty much saying is just like, hey, like I know like sometimes with myself, like sometimes I still act emotional and I still lash out, but I try to minimize it. And now like I know like when I'm acting out, it's like, oh dang, I did this. Now I gotta acknowledge the fact that like, yo, I could like at least keep this to a certain level, or a certain core, to where it's just like I'm not gonna allow this to go get heightened to where it used to be at. And I think that's the same with a lot of people. Like, yo, like you ever heard somebody say, yo, don't take it there, because if we get it there, it might be a little bit, it might get a little bit, it might get a little ugly, but I'm not trying to take it there. But they're just pretty much trying to minimize, like they're trying to keep things to a to a certain key and to a certain level, just because they know like, yo, I used to be this way, but I'm working on changing myself. And I just think all of those factors exemplifies your maturity. And so like I said, yo, when you becoming more mature, like you don't necessarily like always change completely who you are, But what you do is you try to minimize the things that you used to do, but you also acknowledge the past and like where like things could have been different, but they're not. They wasn't different, so you just accept them, but you also accept yourself for who you are and what things occurred in the past, but you still grow from it. And I think that's just that's the ultimate sign of maturity. And so, like all that is being said, y'all, this is Wisdom Wednesdays. Peace.